Good afternoon. This is our lecture on preventive medicine and community health 3 on air pollution, vector control, and food sanitation. Air pollution is the presence of one or more contaminants in sufficient quantities of such characteristics and of such duration as to threaten human, plant, animal life, and property. We have developed technology and it has further advanced civilization, but at what cost? One casualty would be our quality of air, now polluted with sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, and lead. In India, it is one of the cities responsible for air pollution in 2019 and even beyond. 140 million people breathe air that is 69 times the WHO safe limit. 51% of each would be due to industrial pollution. It is responsible for 2 million Indian deaths per year, fifth killer in India, responsible for 620,000 deaths in the year 2010. This is your air pollution index in New Delhi for particular matter 2.5 AQI. And it's indirectly or directly involved to a lot of respiratory diseases such as asthma, TB and lung infection, and other general health problems. Such that India established the National Air Quality Index, whose goal is for 20 to 30% reduction in particulate matter 2.5 and 10 concentrations by the year 2024. Other strategies would include aerosol and air quality research facility, which would be responsible to do researches on air pollution, and establishment of the Great Green Wall of Ara Valley, which is to plant 1.35 billion native trees over a span of 10 years. So cigarette smoke is one of the leading pollutants. We know that cigarette smoke could contain a lot of substances that would be toxic to the air. There are two types of air pollution. One is primary, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, etc. And secondary, which is comprised of your smog and your ozone. Our second topic would be vector and vermin control. So vectors are arthropods or other invertebrates which transmit infection by inoculation into or through the skin or mucous membranes by biting or by deposit of infective materials on the skin or food. Vector control is any method to limit or eradicate the mammals, birds, insects, or other arthropods which transmit disease pathogens, and the most frequent is mosquito control. Vector and vermin control would remain the only way to protect human populations for diseases without cure, such as Zika, dengue, etc. And it is most cost effective compared to expensive treatment. So the WHO recommends integrated vector management. So most common would be mosquito or insect control, and we have to control this because of hypersensitivity to bites and hair scales. Sometimes it is infestation of insects and vector or, and bring about disease to bring about disease to human host. So there are types of vector. It's either mechanical or biologic. Mechanical meaning, for example, a fly would um, be in contact with feces or any fecal material and then be in contact with our food. Biologic, for example, we would be ingesting the vector and then it would multiply in our body and cause disease. So, control measures of vector is important because it spells the difference between being well and being sick. So, for control measures, so habitat and environmental control, examples of which would be to remove breeding grounds, to reduce prevalence of open defecation, improving the designs and maintenance of pit latrines, reducing contact, so this is to limit exposure, bed nets, window screens. Chemical control would be to use the insecticides, larvicides, and rodenticides. Biological control would be the use of natural vector controls. For example, unleashing a cat on a rat population because they are natural predators of rats. And they can be further classified into defensive measures and offensive measures. Defensive would be protective clothing, use of repellents, nets, or screens, or avoidance of places with insects. Offensive measures would be directed towards control of the insect population, so it could be natural or environmental control, mechanical control, chemical control, and biologic control. So in India, so a national vector-borne disease control program was established under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare with the following strategies. So personal prophylactic measures, biological control, chemical control, environmental management and source reduction methods, health education, and community participation. So for food sanitation would involve all practices involved in protecting food from risk of contamination, harmful bacteria, poisons, and foreign bodies, preventing any bacteria from multiplying to an extent which would result in an illness of consumers, and destroying any harmful bacteria in the food by thorough cooking or processing. Goals would be administration and enforcement of laws, education, restrained sale of food which are decomposed, adulterated, mislabeled, safe handling of perishable products, developing methods for minimum contamination. Food sanitation is the responsibility of every person who is involved in the food service. We have to ensure food sanitation because it may bring about foodborne illness, which is the greatest danger to food safety that affects overall health, worth, and personal lives. It may be the source of a common source outbreak if we are not careful. There are three types of contaminants: biological, physical, and chemical. Biological, if it's microbial; physical would be foreign objects; and chemical would be chemical substance. Main causes of foodborne illness would be cross-contamination, such as the transfer of microorganisms, food-to-food contamination, time temperature abuse, which would be exposing food to more than 41 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 4 hours, and poor personal hygiene due to food handlers being infected. Food poisoning can occur, which is a general term used to designate illness due to the consumption of food containing deleterious chemical substances. This is usually the result of bacterial activity, fermentation, breakdown of carbohydrates with the formation of acid, and putrefaction, which is protein disintegration, which give rise to foul-smelling products. This is usually due to bacteria, most commonly Clostridia, which are gram-positive spore-forming rod-like bacteria. Most common cause, aside from Clostridia, would be Staphylococcus and Botulinum. How to prevent? There must be sufficient contamination, good medium for the growth, and must remain at room temperature or above for hours. So to prevent it, we have to avoid food handlers with infection, have clean methods, use of covers, and food should not be at room temperature or above for longer than necessary. For botulinum, canned food, avoid if there is spoilage. Transfer your container if you will not consume the whole content of the can, and avoid buying cans with dents because that would accelerate spoilage. So these are the common diseases that you could get from foodborne, from food vectors. So this is typhoid, cholera, and parasites. For parasites, it's important such as um, parasites that would cause your um, foodborne diseases. It's important to cook your food properly, especially, for example, for microbes or chicken that will cause salmonella. So policies, so have IV solutions for both adult and pediatrics at the City Health, have first line and second line antimicrobial and antiparasitic medicines, increase public awareness, adequately respond to outbreaks by improving coordination, have typhoid kits, and vaccinate against typhoid and cholera. Thank you for listening to this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel for more lectures on preventive medicine and community health.